Okay, continuing on, we're going to go ahead and build the backpack for this creature that we got here. And I have my back image plane loaded up as well for view so we can see that thing. So it's not perfectly symmetrical, which is kind of good for us. Maybe we'll build it symmetrical and then kind of deform it a little bit. So let's just get into this here. Let's go ahead and create a polygon primitive. Let's use a cube, and we'll use these settings that we've been looking at before. Let's go ahead and push it up, push it back. Let's go to a side view so we can see what's going on here, and we'll change the scale of it, and let's change it this way. Let's scale it, let's see, in world, so scale it like that. And maybe I want to do an object if I want to scale it up this way, like this. Okay, so I can tell, looks like maybe I need a split here because I want to build something that's going to look like this lip that's kind of coming over. So maybe we can take these points, move them in just a little bit like this to start building some of the rounding of this shape like this. Let's go to the perspective view and just take a look at the scale of this. It feels like these pieces here, like these points right here and right here, and I could have just selected the faces for it. That would have been easier. We could just scale those out just a little bit like this. So I'll tap 5, and you can see how it's starting to build up the shape like this for us. This looks pretty good back here. These points, because they're almost touching the back, so we can pull those in just a little bit. These points right in through here, if we tap 4, you can see them a little bit better. They need to conform to the curvature of the back a little bit better. So maybe I can keep pulling these out like this. And then these points need to conform to the shape of the back a little better as well. So I'll pull those down just ever so slightly. Take this and maybe move it this way just a little bit like that. So we're starting to get a fairly decent shape. So again, if we select these faces, that was going to be a lot quicker to do that and just kind of scale these things out this way a little bit. Maybe take these edges, scale them out here just a little bit like that. And then now here's where we start to build this lip like what we've got going on here. So we only need half of it. Let's get rid of half of it so we can start doing our normal thing where we have to only worry about half, and we can call this backpack underscore L like that. We need to make an empty group for it because I want to keep this rotation angle and all that other information. So just hit Control G to group it real quick, and let's just steal the name from this. I'm going to copy that and paste it into here, and then give it a GR for group like that. And I got one too many underscores here. And now we can go to Edit, Duplicate Special, Option Box, give it an instance, negative scale in X. Remember, X, Y, Z. So here we go. So now we got this thing back to where we were at before, but now we can just worry about one side, and the other side is going to follow around for us. So that comes in handy. I'm going to call this right like that and throw it into the build group temp like that. And then now let's select this thing, and we're going to select it as object and shift right click and use the Multicut Tool, and let's just start cutting around this thing kind of like this. I'm going to drag up from here. I don't want to snap to that point there. We'll go ahead and hit enter like that, and I can finish out this geometry like this. I could go ahead and put it to here, just like we were doing there. I could finish this out to here, and I think we should be good for that right now. Now what I want to do is take these faces, so I'll tap F11. Need to get it out of that Multicut tool, so I just clicked here. So I've got my faces. I'm going to select this here, not that. Don't want that piece. And we're going to extrude it. So we're going to hold down Shift, right click, and extrude face. And we could use this thickness slider. That's possible for us. I can already tell there's an issue here. Let's go back. So I'll tap 4 so I can see through the model. I had these extra faces selected in the back. I don't want that selected. So if you hold down Control and drag a marquee over it, you can deselect it. This is all I want. So I know I was being a little bit picky, but I don't want it to extrude any of that other stuff back there. So sometimes you got to look through the model to do that. So again, Shift, right click, extrude face, and then we can give it a thickness, and I'll leave it something right about there like that, and give ourselves a lip. Now with these edges down here, we can select this and tap W and move it up a little bit, and then move it out if we want to make it feel like it kind of sticks out a little bit further than what we had it on those other pieces. So the other thing we can do is we can start to build up these pockets on the side. So I'm going to use the Multicut tool again because it feels like this is not big enough for the pockets that we need, so we need something that looks maybe something a little bit more like this. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of this edge that you see here because I don't want to worry about that when I'm extruding it out. I'll use the Multicut tool again and cut from here. Let's just go across like this. Okay, and I'll take this face here, select F11, select it, Shift right click, extrude the face out, and now we're starting to build something for that pocket here, like this. Now it feels like the bottom part of it sticks out a little bit more, so I can kind of use the rotation on that tool, clicking that outer ring, and kind of rotate it out a little bit like that, and already start to build up some angle for that. And maybe take this center point and pull it out a little bit, push it down, just trying to make it feel a little more organic. And then now I'm going to use that Multicut tool, and I'm going to maybe go from here. I don't know. I'm going to come here, I think. No, I'm changing my mind. Okay, going across here like this, and I want to build something like this for this pocket part that kind of hangs over the top of it. So I'll select this face here, and I'll extrude the face, and I will just go ahead and, well, let's just use the thickness. I think that'll work better for us. We could offset it a little bit, give it more of a thickness like that. And I think that's starting to work. Yeah, let's go ahead and leave it like that. This is where we could use our edges. You could pull it through, so I just want just this edge. You could have it just intersect with that piece there. It's possible to do that, and you get more of a shape kind of like that at that point. So let's take a look at this as we get further away from it. Now I don't like how it's nice and hard edged like through here, so it is possible that we could add a bevel to this. So I select these pieces here, Shift right click and say bevel edge, and then take a look at the inputs for that. So we could take a look at the fraction right here, and then middle mouse drag on that and slide it. And if you want to do smaller increments, as you middle mouse drag on there, just click that, middle mouse drag, hold on Control, and you can get finer control of how this thing's going to bevel. And if you get really close to a point like that, you might want to just take these points right here, select them, and then merge to center like that. And that's starting to look a little bit cooler. I'm not really sold on this, what I did with this intersection thing that we got going on here. So let's just select this. I'm going to delete the history. Don't need all that history on there. Tap F9 for my verts, and I'll pull this out just a little bit. Select these, and I'll pull them over ever so slightly. kind of like that. Push it in just a little bit. And I think it's getting closer to the shape. I know it's not perfect. If we hit F8, if I use the Multicut tool, I'm kind of worried about this pocket, that it doesn't really feel like it's kind of rounded. It's kind of flat. So if I take this and add a split going down the center there, if I select those edges right here and here, I can kind of pull that out. And what I didn't notice was with that bevel, it caused a little bit of a problem. So let's just go select these verts and we'll weld them together. Shift right click, merge vertices to center, just like that. And now I can pull this thing over and feel like I'm starting to get a little bit of rounding. And I can take this point and I can move it up. That's nice and like very hard point, hard corner. So let's pull that in and start to build a little bit more rounding for this. So starting to build that pocket up. And it feels very stiff in here as well, so maybe if I put a cut going through here and move that, well, let's move these edges here and here. Let's move that back. We can get a little bit of curvature going on here. And this does feel very stiff here as well. Maybe we could do a bevel edge on it just ever so slightly, kind of like that, and maybe increase this a bit. And I think that's looking pretty good. And I think let's take a look at this drawing that we got here. We've got this button thing in the middle. We've got these different straps. So it might be possible to just do the straps in texture, but we could try to cut out a little bit of the shape using the Multicut tool on that. So I'm going to just check this out real quick and go to polygons and then go to normals and then soften the edge on that thing. And then we're just going to go to shading and then flat shade all. I just want to see what it looked like when it was starting to smooth some of this out. I'll tap 7 to see my lighting. Okay. So this part here, let's go ahead and take this and we'll cut out some of those shapes. Well, we're going to use the Multicut tool, object mode, shift right click, Multicut, and I'm going to come right off of this corner here. And I did notice this, if we're doing this negative instance thing, and sometimes it just gets a bit confused as to what do you want me to work with. So I'm going to select just that part and try to use the Multicut tool on there. It just seems like it gets confused sometimes. So if that happens, I just kind of make sure it's selecting the right one. So I can come here, run this thing down right through here. I think it's going to come down all the way down to about this point here, like this. And if I come here, I can go right back out here and hit enter. That'll complete the tool out. And you can see how that was pretty cool, that it just slices right through all those pieces. And now I can finish this off right in through here, like that. Now I'm going to take these faces, select them, and extrude them out. And then this time I'm just going to move it in world space. I just click that little icon here and move it straight back. And I'm not getting that right there. Okay, so there we go. This time though, I'm going to take these verts right here and here, merge them to center, do the same thing for this and this, hit G, and now I've got these points that I can select and move down a little bit and pull them out, and I can take these points here. Let me tap Q just so I can select the right point. Sometimes that manipulator gets in the way, and you just tap Q for to hide that thing a little bit. Let me push this down, and I'll take this like that and just pull that out a little bit. And let's take a look at the buckle part of this. So I'm trying to think what the best way of doing this would be. If I tap F8, I mean, we could build something to where it actually sits on there that'll be more geometry. Yeah, or we could try to make something where we just kind of cut the thing out ourselves. Where you're kind of going across here or something like that. And then I'll hit enter. And select it. And we'll use that multi-cut tool again. And I think it's getting confused again, so let's delete history. This thing is just getting a little bit confused. Object mode. And usually, when mine starts to get confused like that, it's usually a good idea to save your scene as a new version, file, save scene as. Something just does not feel completely right to me, and that's usually a good indication that I should probably save my work in case my crashes at that point. So let's hope it doesn't, but just in case, we saved as a new iteration, and we should be good to go. So again, I'm trying to build this little piece here, and I've got enough geometry right through here that I could maybe take the multi-cut tool and add a split right here, kind of like this. And then now I could take these faces right here, and let's extrude that out. Something kind of like this here. And so I'm definitely going to have to finesse this quite a bit, because it's not exactly what I'm looking for, but it's at least starting to give me some of the shape. So I'm selecting these points like that. Tap W for move, then move them forward a little bit. And maybe these points need to be moved down, and then moved out a little bit. And I'll take these and move them up and back a little. Maybe take these and move them down a little as well. So then now I can take the multi-cut tool and we'll go ahead and cut through here. We'll do something kind of like this. Hit G for my last command. I'll finish this out right here. So I just gave myself a nice little split where I can take this and I can move it up in here and kind of tuck it under a little bit like that. And maybe I probably should take these and I'll extrude them up just a little bit. So let's move this forward. But I need it to go back into this thing here. So I could either grab here and here, merge vertices to center. That's possible. Or we could go to the modeling toolkit, target weld, and drag a point there. It seems to me that tool, I don't know if it's a matter of it working off of based on what you're looking at screen space. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but you can target weld edges and verts, but it just doesn't seem to be working very well for me right now. So I'll just use the method that I know will give me those results. So I'll select those two verts, merge vertices to center. So hopefully at the time of you watching this video, maybe that tool is going to be addressed, because it does seem to have some issues at times. So I'm just going to merge those together like that. And I think that's getting pretty good. I can take these points. This is where this target weld would be really nice if I can get it to work, and it does work sometimes. So you can see how I want to hold that point, so I can click and drag that thing over the top of that thing. The only way I could do that before, the other method I was doing, is you select that vert, you move it, hold down V and snap it to here, and then you have to go here, right click and merge vertices to center. So that's why that tool is rather attractive if it works. It's just when it doesn't work, it's not very helpful. So like I said, I'm hopeful that that thing will be fixed and will be quite a useful tool whenever it works on a more consistent basis. So I'm going to take these points and then maybe pull them in and down just a little bit, just to give the illusion that this thing is kind of rounded just a little bit. And if we pull out and take a look, here's the new shape that we got going on here. So let's just try to select just the, delete the history on it. So let's go to the channel box, and there's no history. So we can go to normal, soften edge, and we should be good for that. And then now we can take a look at this thing flat shaded and kind of get a better understanding of the shape of that. And I'll turn on 7 to see my lights and deselect my geometry, just so I can take a look at it. And here's where I've got this lighting set up, and you know, I have more of my light on the front of it, which is good, but when you start to work your way around the character, I might have to increase some of the values of these lights just a little bit. So I can see by just selecting them, I don't have my lights shown here, so I can show them. That would make it a little bit easier for me to know what I'm working with here, so I can just bump up the values a little bit more on here. And I need more of a light over there, so I could take this thing and kind of shift it over like that. Maybe increase the value of it just a little bit more, and then I've got this light here that feels like I need a bit more light in the back of this character here, and these are closer to the ground because they're trying to simulate some bounce from the ground coming up. So if we do 20 or 30, let's do that. And then I do have this light in the front. Maybe I'll duplicate this light, Control D, and then move it top right. So that thing's pretty bright, so I'm going to take that down to about 40 or 30. And my values, the reason that my values might look different than yours, I have the decay rate on the light set to linear, so it's got a fall off to the light. And then I've got this light here. It's a little bit close to the ground, and that's what it's making a hot spot. The closer it is to the ground, you can see it's going to create that. Not a fan of that. So let's pull this out here, maybe reduce it just a bit. Okay, so now I don't need to see my lights anymore. And I'll close this up, and that's looking pretty cool. So let's just check this. I never really checked against our drawing. So we do have our pocket. It's not, you know, the shape of this thing is not perfect. I'll put on my soft select, and we can kind of mash this thing around a little bit. But it does conform fairly well. Go to the top view. It feels kind of stiff from that vantage point. So maybe if we come here a little bit, And I'll just select a point like in here, kind of give it a little bit of rounding through there. I just tapped F to kind of frame in on there. My camera was giving me a little bit weird motion, so sometimes if you frame on the camera, that can kind of help fix some of that stuff. So I'm just going to pull that thing in just a little bit, take this point up, take this point here, pull it down, and I think that's starting to look pretty cool, like that. And here's where we got things. If I just want to turn off those image planes, you can do that pretty quickly there by doing the show image planes. I'm not a fan of this little hot spot that we got going on here, and I think it's because, no, it's not because of that light. It's because of this here. So I'm going to pull that up just a little bit. I know I'm being really picky about this, but sometimes I see visual things that just kind of bug me a little bit, and I just got to fix them as I see them. So he's starting to look pretty cool. We're getting closer there. We still have to build a few little pieces before he's completely and totally roughed out. So one thing to kind of check, remember, we need to take a look at our final try count, and we're getting close to 5,000. I want to keep him fairly close to that. Now I do know later on I want to push and build a better looking eye for him, and that's definitely going to eat up some polys at that point, but you know, maybe we can steal some polys from some other areas. Like you can see, we probably could get rid of some polys under here and things like that, but I'm not too worried about that stuff right now. I know we're getting close to that target count for where we want to be with this creature, because we have more detail that needs to be put into the arms and some other places. So it's just something to be aware of. If you know if your target poly count, like I said, if we're shooting for 6,000-ish or so and we're roughing this thing out, just be conscious about how many pieces you're adding and what the poly count and where it stands and things like that. And that'll kind of guide you to know if you're too high on certain numbers. I'd definitely say the pants are the biggest offender right now as far as having a lot of polys in there. So that might be able to be reduced, but we want to get some kind of folds going on in there as well. So we saved an iteration of this, and so we can just maybe turn back on the image planes and then position this thing up, check our other camera views, and make sure everything's kind of in a decent spot to hand it off in case somebody else needs to work on it. And I'll take this image plane, the back image plane, hide it, Control H, and so I don't have to see that. I'll go here, and then we've got this version 15, so I'll say File, Save Scene, because I've already given it that version number.